But the real highlight is these adorable rubber hats you can fit on your workers. I really, really love this. Hey everyone, this is Thecos. Today I will give you my review of Viticulture World, the cooperative expansion for viticulture, published by Stonemaier Games. This is designed by Mia Shah and Francesco Testini and the art is by Andrew Bosley. A huge thanks to Stonemaier Games for providing me with a review copy. Alright, so how I will structure today's video is a little bit different than usual. I will give you like a rough overview of what has changed, like in comparison to the base game, and then I will give you my review of the game, right? So this will really will be on the shorter side, but it's just supposed to be like a short, informative video, so you kind of know what you can be expecting here. All right. So before we start, grab yourself a cup of tea and let's go. Ah, yeah, there we go. Just the right temperature. So let me just guide you through like the main difference, the key differences of the game. So first of all, we have a new game board here, right? So the original game board from the original Viticulture that you know from the base game. You don't need this for the cooperative expansion because we have a new board. There are new spots here and a new structure, right? So for the setup, a few things are different. So first of all, in these stacks for the blue and the yellow card, there are a few cards that now have a black border, as you can see here, right? The reason for these are exactly the same cards as in the base game, just they have a black border. The reason for that is you can still play with these cards, just the regular base game, but you can also play with them in the cooperative expansion here. And whenever you draw a black card, you put it aside, you discard it and draw a new one. You just skip the card, right? These are cards that only work in the base game, but not in the expansion. But that's a very, very clever design. Instead of just having to like sort out the cards, like when you play the cooperative expansion, you just leave them in, you just skip them whenever you draw them. Very, very clever design. So that's like the first change. The second change is that you have like new tiles here. You have like these innovation tiles here, these square and also these oval ones. Actually, let me put those back to the side for now for my explanation in just a little bit. And then what you also have are these continent decks, and these are like event decks. You draw 6 cards of them. They have like a specific order, but you can also just shuffle them up and place them in any order for like a more random game that is a little bit harder. And there are like loads of these decks, right? So I have like 2 other ones here, for example, right? But there are like many of these decks. I think like 7 or 8, I think. So lots of them, and they are like very in difficulty and of course in the type of events that they offer. And you can always like sort them from like 1 to 6, or you can just shuffle them up pretty much like blindly, so to speak. Another thing that is new is like the influence token and the influence track down here. And that is also one of the goals in the game. I will get to that in just a moment. And then another thing that is different is that you still have your workers, but these workers now have these blue, or also as you can see there, these yellow hats that allow you to only place them in either summer or winter, but you can train them to actually put them in any season. Also, you only have 4 workers instead of the regular 5. And these are the key differences in terms of setup. Oh, also the grape token, you put that on the year track on year 1, because after 6 years, 6 rounds, the game is over. All right, so regarding the rules, it's now different because it's cooperative, as I said, right? There is a specific goal that you as a group of players need to reach instead of playing like against one another. And the goal, there are like 2 goals you need to reach. First of all, each player still needs to reach 25 points, which you track down here, but also the entire group needs to reach the 10 on the influence track, right? And there's several ways to get influence in the game. You can get them via event cards if you do specific things. Also, you can buy influence for 8 lira here, right? So this is your goal in the game. How the game regularly works is very well detailed here on the board. So first you always start at spring and you reveal a new event card. And then you have like a little bit of flavor text that you can read. And then you have like, usually you have like either you have something that happens, or most of the time you have like a specific new worker placement spot you can use here. Just in the base game, like all worker placement spots like that are outlined like this on the to the right, these are spots only for 4 to 6 players, right? For 2 to 3 players, you only use the left one. After you have done this, reveal the card, then you remove the previous innovation tiles from the last round. Of course not in the first round because there aren't any. And then you just add 2 innovation tiles that are like 2 of these square ones and also 2 of these here. You can later on gain them, so to speak, and build them into the tableau here. And then you choose an available spring bonus for each player and you do that together, right? You take your roosters and you just say, okay, maybe the orange player wants to have a green card and the blue player wants to have some money, for example, right? Keep in mind that you will also use the Mama and Papa's cards, just like in the base game at the beginning, just that you will ignore the first row with the workers, right? You will get everything else because you always have like a fixed number of workers that you play with. And then you transition to summer. And summer works like in the base game. You take one of your workers, but it needs to be one with a yellow hat. And you put it in any one of these spaces here. And then you do whatever it says up there, not down here. These are something different. I will get to that in just a moment. For example, I would place that one here, draw a green card, right? And then would be the other player's turn. And then we would take turns in the order that is specified here. So in this case, the orange player would actually go first. You do that until both players pass. And then you do the fall bonus. Fall bonus means that both players move their rooster here in the middle of this track and then choose one of these rewards. One is either 2 lira, or they can advance one of their grape tokens one space further, or they can draw any card from any deck. And then you transition into winter and do the same thing. You take your workers with a blue hat or you trained workers. I will get to that in just a moment, as I said. And then you just place it on any spot and you do whatever it says up there. For example, harvest 1 field. And then you can harvest 1 of your fields. You also do that until you both pass. And then you're at the end of the year. Then you do this checklist here of retrieving your workers, aging your grapes and wines, just like in the regular game. You discard down to 5 cards instead of 7. And then you collect your residual payments in case you have any, and advance the year marker 1 further. Whenever you reach the end of the year, the end of the 6th year, you check here: have all players reached the 25, and have you gotten 10 influence? And if that's the case, then you win the game. The influence where you start depends on the number of players. For 4 to 6 players, you start at 0. 2 to 3 players, you start at 3. And when you play solo, yes, this game has a solo mode, you start at 4. That is the gist of the game. That is almost everything. A few more things that I want to mention. These spots here are the same as in the base game, except for a few additions. There are a few new ones, right? So for example, you can take one of your workers and place it right here. And then you can pay 1 to gain 1. There are several things you can choose from. Either 2 cards, 3 lira, 1 grape token, like 1 grape token with a value of 1, or 1 victory point. So for example, you could discard 2 cards to get a victory point. Or you could pay 3 lira to draw 2 cards. Any 2 cards. From the same deck or from 2 different decks, right? That's one thing that you can do that is new. Also, what is new is down here, pay 4 lira to gain 1 innovation tile. When you do that, you pay 4 lira back to the supply here, and then you can take one of the innovation tiles. Either you take a square one, like the O, for example, and then you look for the O here on the board, which is right there, and then you overbuild it. That means now you have a stronger action, a better action, right? So you improve your vineyard, so to speak, your common vineyard that you both like work with. Also, additionally, you could take one of these oval innovation tiles, and you can place them anywhere on any of these dotted ovals here. So for example, if I played it right here, what would happen is whenever you go here, there can be as many workers as you want, because in a 2 or 3 player game, you can only use the left spot here, right? So if I go there, the orange player cannot go there anymore, except of course as usual with the grande worker, right? That overrides it. But that's like the only exception to that. Otherwise you can't do that. But if you go here, then you can do it. Then you can actually place a worker here and also place a second worker there if you wanted to. Now there's enough room. Also, you can train your workers. I will get to that in just a moment. When you put a trained worker here, then you not only can do that, but you also get the effect of the oval tile. But it only works with a worker that doesn't have their seasonal hat anymore and is trained. Speaking of training, let us go to that and explain that. So whenever you place a worker right here, pay 4 lira to train, you place a worker there, and then you can remove the hat of any of your 4 workers, which then means that worker is trained. You can also use the worker that you just used for that spot, and that worker is now trained, and you can now place that one in any season. Now you have in a worker, as you had it in the original viticulture, that you can place actually anywhere, because these workers with the hat are seasonal workers. They only work in winter or summer, and when you train them, you can place them there. And also, as I mentioned, these now also count for that bonus on these oval innovation tiles, right? Then there's another spot right down here. You can pay 8 lira to gain 1 influence, and that means you just you place your worker here, you pay 8 lira, and then you will move the influence to the right. Keep in mind, you not only want to have 25 points each, you also want to have 10 influence. Also, whenever a player gets to the 30 point spot here on the points track, then you also get 1 influence. You can only do that once per player though, right? That's something to keep in mind. And I think the last rule that I haven't mentioned yet is how the grande workers work, because whenever I place a worker, for example here, give a tour to gain 2 lira, then I would gain 2 lira, that's fine. And then it's the other player's turn. When the other player also wants to do that, they cannot place a regular worker, they have to play the grande worker to override that, right? To also be able to place someone here, just like in the base game. But there is a new function for the grande worker. What they can now do, they can now trade. That means you see it down here. Whenever there is a grande worker next to a spot with a worker of a different player, then you can trade. And you see down here, you can either trade money, green cards, purple cards, a red or white grape with anyone with any value, or 1 wine with any value, right? So for example, I could, like the orange player, would place the grande worker here. Let me just do it like this so you see it better. And then would, for example, give 7 lira to the other player, and the other player would give them 2 green cards, right? Like one trade you can do. You can also do a one-sided trade, which means you can only give like 5 lira to the other player and receive nothing. That's like your way of trading with the other player, which is very important, because keep in mind, you're playing together and both of you need to reach 25 points. It's not enough if you have something like this and the complete 10 influence, right? All players need to have at least 25 points as well. And that's like what makes the game so tough. And then you play 6 rounds like that, always revealing a new event card, reading that, doing what it says there, and then you go through all these steps here. So that is how the game works. So this is how the Cooperative Expansion Viticulture World works in a nutshell. But what are my thoughts on the game? Well, let me tell you. As in the original, the components are great. Sure, we have the regular well-produced cardboard components, for example. But the real highlight is these adorable rubber hats you can fit on your workers. I really, really love this. Yes, they don't always fit perfectly. You have to push them down a little bit more. But usually this works pretty well. And I just like the way they have done that. What a great way of using these components. Really, really great. Taking a modern classic such as viticulture and transforming it into a cooperative experience is a really cool idea. Something that I would have never believed that would be possible. And I must say, it works quite well. The gameplay at its core is still similar to the original. There are just a few additional rules. But that also means the game becomes slightly more complex, as you're adding more rules on top of the base ones. But if you already know how to play the original Viticulture, you'll be able to learn and play Viticulture World very quickly, since there really aren't that many new rules. The solo mode also works well, although I have to say that the star of this expansion is the cooperative aspect, in my opinion. I appreciate the solo mode, but the solo mode of the base game was already good to begin with. I also like that there are different continent decks that you can use that alter not only the gameplay but also the difficulty. Plus, they allow for quite a bit of replayability. Speaking of difficulty, this game is very hard to win. I think that's mainly because not only does each player need 25 points as in the regular game, but the group also additionally needs to gain 10 influence by the end of the 6th year all round. That's very tough to manage. Luckily, there are easier introductory cards you can buy or print to make your life a bit easier. I like that Stonemaier Games has done this. I initially didn't like the idea of suddenly being limited in how you place your workers. Now that they have hats, they can only be used as seasonal workers in one of the 2 seasons. But with the new action of training your worker, it actually makes sense and works. Still, the idea goes a bit against what viticulture usually does. It's a little bit strange, but you can get used to it in this expansion here. The short playtime of only 6 rounds is a good and bad thing at the same time. It's always great when games condense deep gameplay into a shorter session, but the limited number of rounds makes it hard to really develop everything the way you would like to. And the event deck is also quite random, but ironically it fits the game, since Viticulture has always had a large amount of randomness and luck through card draws that can seriously impact the game. So I guess this works. All in all, this is Viticulture, but cooperative. And still, it feels quite different. While the core gameplay is familiar, the added mechanisms, challenge, and teamwork give it a fresh spin. The adorable components, especially these cool hats, strategic decisions, and solid replayability make it a great expansion, even if the difficulty and few changes might take some getting used to. Well, that concludes my playthrough and review of Viticulture World. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching and sticking to the very end. I really appreciate that. As usual, my thanks goes out to all of you. A special shout out to my generous patrons. The big thanks go out to Thecos for supporting me at the highest tier. I really appreciate that. You can support me by watching, liking, and commenting on my videos, subscribing to my channel, supporting me on Patreon, and joining my Discord server to hang out with me and my amazing community. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the very next video or on my Discord server. Take care everyone, stay safe, and cheers.